Mr. Speaker, let me come to conclusion by speaking on Bougainville and our country. Bougainville is a special place. A greater challenge that faces us is Bougainville. They voted for independence. 97.7% of Bougainvilleans who participated in the referendum voted for independence. They demand and desire a political settlement to a political question. We've already agreed, and to our citizens in Bougainville, we love you very much. You are part of us. As high as Mount William is, your result of 97.7% will remain fixed in our nation's history. But this is a constitutional question. No member for Tari on my own can decide on the sovereignty of our total union. And I want to assure our citizens and friends in Bougainville, this matter will be put to the country. President Toroma and Bougainvilleans will join me, and we will go hand in hand. Some critical questions will be asked as we consult our country in a constitutional consultation. An earlier conversation I made was on the method of Prime Minister election. Those sort of key questions will be asked together with the Bougainville issue. And when the nations are consulted, the pathway for us, as we said in Wabek, when 2024 the matter for Bougainville comes to our national parliament, will be brought upon. And I want to thank all Bougainvilleans who have understood that the journey is still long ahead. It is not easy. We are a union as a nation. It is a political question. It infringes on our national unity. It touches on sovereignty, which is a huge constitutional burden on us. Our union together was placed together by constitutional definition at 1975. It will only take a constitutional amendment to unbundle this union. And I want to ask Bougainvilleans, fear not, Papua New Guineans, fear not. Let's take this journey together and we find a political solution to this political question that our people in Bougainville every day demands an answer of. Today as we come, this question, like Bougainville, is a test to our national union. And I just want to appeal to all citizens of our country.
Okay, thank you, representatives from the media fraternity for coming along this afternoon. This media conference is intended to be a direct response to the Prime Minister's statement on the floor of the House when he was elected as Prime Minister. In the remarks he gave to the floor of the House, he had also mentioned the Bougainville issue. Now, many people have, because of this statement, many people have said, well and good, the Prime Minister is continuing to keep the Bougainville issue as a core agenda, as a core issue for Bougainville. Well, on our part, the Bougainville government has dissected the Prime Minister's speech to say that we are very disappointed would be an understatement. The Prime Minister's speech, if it is looked at in detail, is attempting to bring the two parties back to pre-referendum period. The Prime Minister's statement almost says there was no referendum that took place. The Prime Minister's statement is almost saying 20,000 lives were not lost on Bougainville. The Prime Minister's statement is saying, oh, there are other options other than independence. The Prime Minister's statement is saying the people of Bougainville didn't vote in a constitutionally guaranteed referendum, and that result of that constitutional referendum is independence. And therefore, the government of Bougainville is very disappointed with the Prime Minister's statement. It is our hope that in time, the Prime Minister seeks proper advice, proper counsel, and he can walk back on some of these issues that he has made. It was our view when we broke off the consultations, when we ended the consultations. We were of the view that the two parties, the Bougainville government and the national government, would be working for a joint report. There's a requirement for a joint report constructed by both sides to be presented to the floor of the House. There was a requirement that the referendum result would be part of that joint report. It was intended that the referendum result would also be brought to the floor of the House. Those are legal requirements. It's not an understanding that the two parties have come up. But the Prime Minister's statement makes it very difficult for Bougainville to see how the national government wants to progress this issue. As you will note, the Prime Minister is also calling for a nationwide consultation. He wants to consult every Papua New Guinean on the referendum result. There's no legal requirement. There's absolutely no legal requirement. When we crafted the Bougainville Peace Agreement, the national government leaders at that time had an opportunity, even when we decided during the negotiations that the people of Bougainville would be the ones to vote for the future of Bougainville. The Papua New Guinean leaders at that time had the opportunity to say, no, as a nation, we will make that decision. And we will include other Papua New Guineans to also participate. They didn't. And Bougainvilleans went through a constitutionally guaranteed process to then vote in the referendum. Now the Prime Minister wants to go back and thinks he can just go and consult with some people in Rabaul or in Tari or in West Sepik or in Poponeta, and you think those people will make the decisions for Bougainville. They won't. They won't, because there's no legal requirement. You can consult as much as you want, but at the end of the day, the law required the people of Bougainville to go into a constitutionally guaranteed referendum, and they have voted. And the requirement is for the two governments to consult on the referendum result. We've been polite. The Bougainville team, the Bougainville government has been polite during negotiations or during consultations, because the law required the two governments to consult on the referendum outcome. Now, the referendum outcome is independence, nothing else. 97.7% of the people of Bougainville, or Bougainvillians, voted for independence. That's the referendum result. And therefore, by law, the two governments are supposed to consult on independence being the result, being the referendum outcome. And we have been polite by allowing the government, the national government, to use such terms as political status and political future, to an extent where today they are misconceived. Today, the Prime Minister, even my good brother, the governor of NCD, Paul Spako, they think there are other options apart from independence. They are saying we will ratify. In the process of ratification, we will look at what other options are open for Bougainville. Because they think we are trying to decide a political status for Bougainville. No. The law requires the two governments to consult on the referendum result or the referendum outcome. And the outcome is independence. No other options. And therefore, listen, if it's going to help, Yugoslav national parliamentarians, be honest with yourself. If you don't know enough about Bougainville, we will be able to run some engagement, workshop, in order for you to be brought up to speed. And I say this because there was an agreement between the two governments that Bougainville will be part of the induction that is going on this week at the National Parliament. We were supposed to provide a technical team to work with the National Parliament team and induct national members on the Bougainville agenda. At the last minute, we get the advice that due to time, they could not accommodate the induction for Bougainville. Listen, we're not stupid. We know where this thing is going. And let me sound out this warning very clearly to the Prime Minister and the national members that you cannot mess with this issue of Bougainville. Enough is enough. Now, plenty time we talked about consultation. And I've said this many times in JSB, that this will die, this will peace agreement. Emblo stop him die, blo yumi olgeta. Not only Bougainvilleans died, all Tolaitui died, all Engai died, all Sipiki died, all Mendi died, all Tari died, all Papuai died. Now we're pretending that this is just a normal peace agreement. This peace agreement was conducted when there was still gunfire. And one of the intentions of this peace agreement was to stop the killing and silence the guns. Today, we've moved on. How many years between that time to today? And now we look back at that peace agreement, and we start to devalue that peace agreement. We're starting to tell the nation, oh, it was just another peace agreement. That's fine, we'll come and consult with the rest of Papua New Guinea. And you have a say in what happens in Bougainville. Me appeal on national government. No number of consultation amongst the Papua New Guineans will change our mind. We followed the law by engaging in a peace process which led to amendments to the national constitution. We engaged in a referendum that was constitutionally guaranteed. And we're expecting the national government to stick to the agreements that have been made by the two parties. And to accept that there is a requirement under law that the two parties, the two governments, consult on the referendum outcome. And this day onwards, let's accept that independence is the referendum outcome. Don't start using political solutions or some other term, because then you confuse yourself and you think another option is available to the people of Bougainville. No, there's no other options. And I'm mindful that there are some people who might want to look at options like free association, what's happened between some Pacific nations and New Zealand. Listen, we want total political independence. For those who don't know, the national government defined the word political independence, not Bougainville. When the technical team met, they agreed to the options that would be on the ballot paper. And the Bougainville team was asked to define greater autonomy, which we did. It was the national government who defined political independence. At the end of the day, the two governments agreed that this will be the options. And based on that option, the people have made a decision. Now, me appeal. I sincerely appeal to the Prime Minister and your cabinet and national members that what I'm saying today is probably a polite version of what you'll probably get from the president. Finally, let me say that the Bougainville government is fully aware. We are fully aware of the need for a sound economic base to sustain the independence. If you remember, as soon as the results came out, the national government and some Bougainvilleans, I might say, some of you were telling the national Bougainville government, you must gain economic independence before you gain political independence. And my argument and our argument has always been, no, we're not forgetting economic independence. But political independence is what the people voted for. They never voted for economic independence. Even though as a government, we are aware and we accept that we must work on our economy. We don't want to be running a banana republic. So there are initiatives and there are actions being taken, both on the floor of the House and in the Executive Council, to address some of these economic issues. And therefore, I remind the national government that when we had the dispute about the Restoration Development Grant, the two governments agreed that the UN would decide on the formula. The UN did decide on the formula. The UN, as a mediator, did calculate the outstanding restoration and development. And up to 2018, the national government owed Bougainville 800 million plus. That's in 2018. It's now 2022. It is not hard to estimate that the national government owes Bougainville over $1 billion. Now, if the national government is saying you can't be independent politically unless you are economically independent, then the national government must give what is due to us legally. Give to us what is legally ours. Secondly, we've been arguing about this fisheries, migratory species issue every year. Every year, the National Fisheries Authority, NFA, they give us some nonsensical amount of 5 million kilos. And yet 30% of the tuna catches are caught in Bougainville waters. And we are engaged at the moment in some argument about an international border. At the moment, that's where the impasse is. The national government has supposedly secured the services of some consultant who is working on trying to make sure where the international border is. And I say, cut the crap. Cut the crap. This 5 million is nonsense. If you get more out of this, out of our territory, our sea territory, come on, national government, come to the table and give us what is worth. Finally, the agreement that has been signed over the last couple of months, we are now calling for the national government to come back to the table and stick to the agreements. It has been agreed that independence will be not earlier than 2025 and no later than 2027. Let me make it absolutely clear that Bougainville will be independent. If the national government wants to pussyfoot around on this issue, then I ask the 3 national members to tell the national government in no uncertain terms that Bougainville will obtain its independence either in 2025, 2026, or 2027. I hope that these messages are clear. And I ask for the national government not to renege on any of the agreements that we have signed. And I ask the national members, if there's any time that your involvement is needed, it is now. It is now. Educate your fellow national members that there is no other result when we voted for referendum. There were 2 options. It was greater autonomy or independence. And the referendum result was independence. So educate the national members. It is a question, it's not a question of whatever, it's really a question of when in terms of independence. So the Bougainville government stands ready. If the national government wants to engage in meaningful consultation, if the national government is going to renege, if the national government is going to go back on its word, if the national government is going to break any agreements, and there is no need for further consultation, then the national government should make it clear so that we can chart our own way out of all this nonsense that is happening at the moment. Thank you. God bless Bougainville. God bless Papua.